So Ruth Wasserman Lande, thank you so very much for joining us today. And let's begin with the latest, or should I say the consistent latest, this deadlock in polls between the Yay Netanyahu bloc and the Nay Netanyahu bloc. And it seems that the only way out is mix and match, or simply put, are you going to team up with Benjamin Netanyahu?
The very simple answer is no. It has been proved that he has not been honest previously with the former partner that he took on board, Benny Gantz, and a current Minister of Defense. And therefore, Benny has said once and again that he will not sit with Benjamin Netanyahu as a partner in the same government. However, we have absolutely no problem with the actual party that he leads, with the Likud, with the delegation that the representatives of the Likud in the Knesset. And therefore, we believe that Benny Gantz is the only real person who can reach out and speak with all the different parties and all the different representatives of the different groups that are, of course, not on the very periphery, either left or right, and therefore create a stable coalition.
And we will get to these efforts in a split second, but let's talk the national camp now. This joining forces with Gideon Sa'ar and bringing former IDF Chief of Staff Gadi Eisenkot to become number 3. Only 12 seats, far from this game changer you were hoping for. Perhaps it was a miscalculation on your end.
We feel that the polls are not indicative enough of the current situation. We feel that the numbers will be much higher, and that the camp has already broadened but will be much broader. But the art of actually reaching out, as I said before, and being able to coalesce with all of the parties, including the ultra-Orthodox, provided that Benjamin Netanyahu will not get a 61 majority, is something that Benny Gantz is really the only leader in the current political arena that can do it in Israel. And that's what we are actually aiming for.
Well, a few days ago, Gantz said that the Arabs should flock to the ballots, obviously referring to the now infamous quote of Netanyahu from a few years back, suggesting that this party would try at least and target the Arab sector, not necessarily in line with the hawkishness of Gideon Sa'ar, far from it maybe. If this is the target audience, how will it play out politically within this national camp framework?
I don't think that it's a target audience. I think that very, very clearly the 20 to 22% of the population being Arab Israeli is part and parcel of Israeli society. They are voters, they have electoral rights, equal rights, and they are equal citizens in the country. They have all the prerogative, and we encourage them to go out and vote. It's not an issue of being targeted specifically. Of course, we welcome them to go out of their homes. There is a low turnout perceived in the Arab sector at the moment, and we are hopeful that all sectors will really materialize their right, the equal right to vote, including the Arab sector in Israel. We feel that this would be the right implementation of democracy in Israel.
But speaking of this ideological abyss, I would even dare to say, this is far from being the only issue that seems to be a hot potato within the national camp. Settlements, state and religion, so many topics. And I need to ask you simply, what is your platform and what do you stand for other than this somewhat ambiguous unity at this point in time?
So thank you for asking that. I think that there is really no ambiguity. I think that the most important thing that Israel at the moment requires after endless election rounds is stability. And that is what we are hoping to bring. Stability for a significant period of time. That is why we connected. In fact, Benny Gantz was the person who really indicated to the public that he is capable of making different connections. We are willing and we are even reaching out to make as many connections as possible. Now, let me put your mind at ease. There is much fewer or many fewer issues on which we do not agree than those on which we do, in fact, agree. And the reason being is that we are all looking for this stability. This is something that is extremely relevant for the prosperity of the country. Look at the budget issue. There has been, before this current government, no budget for the country for a number of years. There are many issues on religion and state, on issues pertaining to the political policy issue, whether it's with the Palestinians or whether it's regarding the Abraham Accord countries and geostrategic issues that we in fact agree on because the basics are there. We are all more or less a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, but generally inside the parcel that is called the center and representing the vast majority of the population in Israel, of course, taking out, mind you, the far left and the far right, which, by the way, destabilize the country.
Well, they're definitely paving the way into a consensus to an extent. I do want to talk this Diplo blitz, if you will, on behalf of Gantz, from the nuclear talks, a very hands-on approach there to the meetings with Palestinian Authority. President, is it part of electioneering? Because if Gantz is trying to make a point here, the public, I think, is perhaps missing it. Maybe he's investing efforts in the wrong endeavors?
God forbid. This is something that we have said again and again, and this is completely apolitical. Iran is a real threat to Israel. This is a detrimental threat. This is not something to either joke about, be cynical about, or to use as a political tool. And God knows that Benny Gantz is above that. He has just returned from a very significant, strategic visit to the United States. This was not a political visit. This was a professional visit with a delegation of high-ranking figures from the Ministry of Defense. And there have been understandings regarding the very difficult and complex, I would even say challenging, to say the least, agreement, which is probably going to be signed between the United States and Iran, and what should be done if and when. Of course, emphasizing that Israel is outside of that particular agreement.
Ruth Wasserman Lande, we have just less than a minute left, so I will ask it very briefly. With 12 seats, is the premiership a reasonable goal? Didn't we have enough with this 6-seat, now 0-seat premiership escapade?
I think that it's very important to understand that there was a delegitimization of a few seats leading to premiership. That is exactly the reason why the current defense minister has aimed and reached out to make larger coalitions, a broader understanding, and we believe that we will have many more.
We ran out of time. Thank you so very much for this interview. Thank you very, very much.